Welcome everyone to our discussion. Today we're diving into Remedy Entertainment's recent financial report and the fallout from FBC, Firebreak's underperformance.
Right. And it's a roller coaster, isn't it? What exactly happened with Firebreak?
So, Firebreak, Remedy's cooperative shooter, pretty much bombed after its release in June. The game launched, in an anemic state without core features. Basic things like in-game voice chat and a helpful tutorial were missing, and clearly, it just didn't hit the mark with players.
Yeah. So it sounds like they had a lot of great ideas, but ended up, compromising on execution.
Exactly. It's like they tried to squeeze too many novel concepts into something that ultimately felt half-baked. And even when they pushed out an update called Breakpoint aiming to patch these issues, it just didn't draw enough players back into the fold. In fact, SteamDB shows only about 25 active players, though that might be a slight underestimate given console and Game Pass numbers.
Wow, just 25? That's pretty rough. So how did this performance impact Remedy's broader financials?
Right. So Remedy reported a 32% drop in revenue and an operating loss of 16.4 million euros in Q3 2025 compared to Q3 2024. The major hit comes from a non-cash impairment of 14.9 million euros on Firebreak alone, which really underscored the problematic nature of the game's launch.
That's a considerable shortfall. And wasn't this around the same time that their previous CEO stepped down?
Yes, indeed. Shortly after issuing a profit warning for 2025 due to Firebreak's underperformance, the firm's CEO, Tero Virtala, stepped down with immediate effect. So it was a pretty big shakeup at the top as well.
Interesting contrast there. A game flopped and then a change in leadership. What did the interim CEO have to say?
Marcus Maki, the interim CEO, was trying to keep things positive. He admitted, "We aren't satisfied with our recent financial performance," but he emphasized confidence in their ability to create great video games that resonate with players and eventually
Yeah,
return to profitability. He even mentioned that Firebreak was technically successful in setting up cross-platform environments, which could help future self-published titles.
so despite the flop, they see some potential in the structure they've built from Firebreak?
Exactly. It's a bit like building a dilapidated house, but realizing you now have the blueprints to construct a sturdy mansion later. They now have essential infrastructure for self-publishing, which can benefit upcoming projects like Control 2 and the Max Payne 1 and 2 remakes, plus Alan Wake 2 and Control royalties, which, by the way, saw a significant jump in revenue from 0.8 million euros to 0.8 million euros, 6 million euros compared to last year.
That's a pretty remarkable rebound in other areas. So, in a way, while Firebreak tanked, Remedy's overall portfolio managed to provide support financially.
Precisely. Despite the impairment from Firebreak, they still maintained a positive operating cash flow, and their cash reserves increased by 8.9 million euros over the previous quarter. It shows a kind of resilience, even though the immediate hit from the shooter was significant.
Interesting, but I'm a bit skeptical here. Does shifting development resources from Firebreak to other titles really suggest a commitment to long term redemption of the shooter?
That's a really good point. While Remedy says they're still putting some resources into Firebreak, the narrative is that they've moved most of the development focus to more promising titles. It seems the decision was driven by the clear underperformance of Firebreak, which just wasn't meeting expectations.
So it's like they recognized early on that throwing more money at Firebreak wouldn't fix its core issues.
Exactly. It's like trying to patch a sinking ship with band-aids. Instead, they're focusing on projects that already have strong fan bases and proven concepts, like Control and Alan Wake, and leveraging that infrastructure for the upcoming Max Payne remakes with Rockstar Games.
I see. And wouldn't this shift in focus also help them mitigate future risks?
Yeah, for sure. It diversifies their portfolio. Although Firebreak was a misstep, the technology and cross-platform techniques developed have value. It's kind of like extracting silver linings from a storm cloud. They now have solid self-publishing structures that can help both revenue and new game launches.
While that sounds promising, I'm curious. Does this suggest a broader strategy shift at Remedy, or is it just a one off corrective measure?
I'd say it's a bit of both. On one hand, it's a corrective measure stemming directly from Firebreak's failure. On the other, it shows they are refocusing on what worked historically and leveraging their established franchises more. But I do sometimes question if shifting resources so abruptly means they might be leaving some potential hidden in Firebreak's novel ideas, even if the execution was poor.
Right, that's a fair critique. It feels like they might be abandoning the experiment prematurely, even though there were some innovative aspects in Firebreak's design.
True, although I suppose with a financial loss that substantial, they had to take decisive action. Not every gamble pays off, and sometimes you have to pivot to save the overall brand.
Yeah, exactly. So, what do you think the long term implications are for Remedy after Q3 2025?
Well, on one hand, the damage from Firebreak is documented with a huge impairment and leadership shakeup. But on the bright side, their critical franchises and new projects still show promise. With a revenue rebound from subscriptions and royalties, they maintain a healthy cash flow, even while experimenting with a self-publishing model. It's a balancing act between short-term pain and long-term strategy.
It sounds like a bold move, and sometimes bold moves revitalize even after setbacks. But do you think the optimism from the interim CEO holds water?
I appreciate his optimistic tone, but I do remain slightly skeptical. In these kinds of situations, it's easy to spin performance positively, but the numbers don't lie. A 32% decline in revenue and a 16.4 million euro operating loss are serious, and they can affect investor confidence. Yet, if they nail their next projects, it could turn things around.
And regarding the technical aspects you mentioned earlier, you talked about Firebreak's cross platform advancements. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So even though Firebreak didn't succeed commercially, it was technically successful in terms of establishing a reliable cross-platform environment. This means Remedy now has a tested framework for releasing games on multiple platforms simultaneously, a key asset in today's gaming industry. It's like, building a robust engine that you can fine-tune for future projects, even if the first car built on it didn't sell.
That analogy really hits home. So, what do you think is next for Remedy unless Firebreak somehow makes a comeback?
The focus is clearly shifting towards Control 2, the Max Payne remakes, and bolstering their established franchises like Alan Wake. These titles have historically resonated with players and offer a more reliable revenue stream. The technical gains from Firebreak might be used behind the scenes for enhancements in these projects. That's their ticket back to profitability, I imagine.
And do you see any potential risks in diverting resources from a title like Firebreak, which, despite its issues, had some promise?
Great question. Yes, there is a risk. If Firebreak's loss wasn't handled carefully, there might be a missed opportunity to salvage some of its unique ideas. However, from a financial standpoint, it's a calculated risk. Prioritizing projects that have a bigger historical footprint might be the smarter move, at least for now.
Got it. It's definitely a high-stakes game. One last thought. Do you think Remedy's approach, given these challenges, is a sign of a shifting landscape in game development financial management?
Absolutely, it's reflective of a broader trend. We see that studios are increasingly balancing creative ambitions with strict financial discipline. The willingness to shift strategies midstream shows that game development now has a much more dynamic, responsive edge. It pushes the idea that even when you stumble, you can reallocate and push forward with more promising ventures.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's a reminder that innovation sometimes requires a leap of faith, even if not every leap lands perfectly.
Exactly. Remedy's journey right now is a testament to the challenges of innovation in gaming. They faced a major setback with Firebreak, but they're quickly pivoting back to what they know best, holding on to the silver linings and learning crucial lessons along the way.
Well said. There's a lot to unpack here, and it'll be interesting to see how Remedy navigates this challenging yet potentially transformative period. Thanks for the insightful rundown.
Of course, glad to dive into it with you. And thanks to everyone listening, stay tuned for more discussions on the ever-evolving world of gaming.